estate enthusiasts, welcome to The Closing Table, hosted by entrepreneur, published author, and founder of Inspired Title Group, Dru Wischhover. Joining Dru is his co-host, the always smiling Director of Operations and Title Guru, Aimee Maley. Every week, they're dishing out laughter, game-changing tips, and the latest industry trends, as well as the occasional visit from real estate professionals. No matter where you are in your real estate journey, we've got you covered. So don't just sit there. Pull up a chair, have a seat, and join us at The Closing Table. Back to another episode of our favorite podcast out there. My name is Dru Wischhover, and I am the president and CEO of Inspired Title Group.
And my name is Aimee Maley. I am the director of operations and your very own title guru at Inspired Title Group.
I love that whole title guru title, Aim. This is great. We're fired up and we're ready to go today. We've got another episode of The Closing Table.
It's going to be another jam-packed show. I feel like every introduction I start with saying it is going to be jam-packed.
It is.
And this one is no different. We are starting out the show with our ABCs of title. We have sped it to the letter.
Sped it. Is that a word? Sped it?
I was going to say sped and another I word.
Spedded is great.
We have sped it to the letter F already. Can you believe it?
Frankly, I can't.
Funny.
That was good. Well played. Nice job.
And I also think we've been hearing a lot of talk about what's going on with interest rates and Fed meetings. So I think it would make sense to take a little bit of time to chat about that. And while we are chatting with everything going on mortgage rate wise, we are going to hear from an industry expert who's been in the mortgage business for a long time, who has some great insight as to her opinion on what she thinks is happening with the real estate market. And of course, we cannot have a complete show unless we talk a little bit about ITG Gives Back and what we are doing here in the office. So like I said, another full show.
I love it. So whether you guys are a seasoned veteran or you're just your happy homeowner, if you guys are just out there looking to kind of get some knowledge and upgrade your lingo, what's out there, this is your first step, guys. So we're thankful that you're here. And this episode, I think, is going to be designed for you, especially with our ABCs of title. So, Aimee, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Well, let's do this. Let's grab a cup of coffee, everybody. Pull up that chair because we're about to open up the discussion at
the closing table.
Let's get this thing started. This is going to be awesome. I'm excited.
This is fantastic. And we have been starting our show now with the ABCs of title. And as I said, we are now on to the letter F. We were having quite a little challenge thinking about which Fs.
Is it right? It's as bad as that sounds.
I mean, there was Fannie and Freddie we were talking about.
FHA
we were talking about. So we settled on forbearance and foreclosure to discuss a little bit.
And I think they're both appropriate.
I think
sadly,
yes. And I think up until, COVID, until 2019, forbearance was a thing that happened, but I think COVID made it so much more of a normal.
I agree.
So what forbearance is, for those of you that are listening that are not out there, it's a temporary postponement, so many P's, a temporary postponement while you are dealing with a crisis, such as a job loss, maybe illness, or another financial setback, where the borrowers are able to defer their loan payments. So instead of you having to pay your mortgage every single month, you kind of have an agreement with your lender that says, you know what, well, you figure out everything that's happening in your life, just go ahead and, postpone those payments. And, there's a million different ways banks work through this. Sometimes they require you to still pay your interest. Sometimes they completely remove it altogether.
Right.
And it just kind of depends on the conversation that you have with your bank, with your lender. So I have read a lot about this, that the better you are at paying on time, the more willing they are to work with you on terms while this forbearance happens.
For sure.
And so one thing to remember about this is just a temporary thing.
Yeah.
This is not saying that you will never have to pay us again. This is saying, while you are going through something, we're going to work with you, and then we'll talk about what this means in the future.
Yeah, that's, so very true. And I think that's very well said. I think that's a nice little kind of snippet for,
Yeah.
just giving the folks a little taste of, what it is, and probably a term they're hearing,
Yeah.
right? And really to go along with that term is the term that I'm going to talk about, which is foreclosure.
hmm
And unfortunately, that's the, result of the forbearance if
Right.
you don't, pay on it. So what is foreclosure? It's that legal process that allows the lender to basically, take back the home, and they're going to try to sell that property and recover as much of the cost as they can from it, so that they're not, they're not loss at a loss.
hmm
So there's a lot of processes, and there's a lot of steps that have to
It's a
kind of
long,
take.
painstaking
Yeah.
process. Yeah.
It is really, it's really complex, and it is definitely different by state. So,
hmm
we're going to talk obviously Illinois, Indiana, because that's primarily where we do a lot of our work. So
For sure.
it it begins with the borrower basically missing a payment, and one missed payment is that's not gonna trigger anything that it to that point. They usually let you know, hey, you missed the payment, and it they'll send a notice and things like that. But after
When it becomes a habit is what I say.
yeah, I mean, after the borrower misses two payments in Illinois, it becomes a timeline issue where the foreclosure process kind of starts.
hmm
You got 30 to 60 days late, the lender contacts the borrower, then you got 60 to 120 days late. The mortgage loan automatically goes into a default status. Like these are the trigger dates that are important to really have on notice, because then you got the 90 to 120 days, and that's when the lender basically says, hey, this is a breach, and now we've got an ultimate problem. So before those things really kind of spiral out of control, definitely engage your
Yes.
real estate professionals. I mean, we can absolutely help you here
hmm
at Inspired Title, but at bare minimum, engage your attorney, your realtor, somebody to start helping and making some calls with you.
Right. And I will tell you the thing about foreclosures is lenders don't like to do it.
No, that's true.
Like it's a long, painstaking process that I feel like every real estate professional will try to stay away from.
Yeah.
So if you are communication is so important in every facet of life, and this is no difference. So if you are having, a financial struggle, if you have an illness that you're facing in your family where someone has to take a leave from work, or your life is changing, talk to your lender to see if forbearance might be an option for you before it ultimately leads to this scary word of foreclosure.
And I think that's a wonderful piece of advice too, because as you stated earlier, if you've been consistent,
Mhm.
they're going to want to work with you. Like
Yes.
if you show the ability that you have to pay, okay, fine. They're going to try to work it out with you. But if you've lost your job, or if you've had some really earth-shattering life event happen that causes you to not, yeah, you may not have any choice but to go down the foreclosure route. And it's
Mhm.
not, it doesn't have the stigma that it once did, where, oh my gosh, you're a bad person. What did you do to get your house
No.
foreclosed on? COVID hit, the market crashed. Like there's a lot of factors that led into why people went through the foreclosure process. So don't be embarrassed about it. Step into it and let people help you out where they can.
So it wasn't a very happy ABCs of
It
Title
wasn't.
segment. I'm sorry,
It
but
wasn't a happy ABC as a title.
that was the letter F that we just spent some time discussing. So make sure you stay tuned in 2 weeks when we will come back with the letter G that is now happening.
Yes.
Hopefully it'll be a little bit
indeed.
of a happier segment.
Yeah. Yeah. We're gonna kind of take this into our next piece that we like to kind of keep you guys up to date about, and kind of it, it really lends to what's going on in the world, in the market today.
It's scary.
It is.
I feel like in the 8 years I've been in title, something like this has never really been an issue.
I've been on a
We're like
different,
not even talking about what we're
right?
talking about.
I
Are you
know
guys
we're
listening
so
close? We're like beating
roundabouting
around the
this.
bush right
Yeah,
now
we are
because
so
we're making sure you all have your volume turned up in your
yeah.
car or on your phone.
We really want you guys to listen, because I've been on different radio shows, different podcasts, including this one, sharing that the feds are probably going to drop the rates at least 2 more times in 2024.
In the end of 2023, they were saying about four
Four
drops
times.
is what they
Yes.
were initially discussing towards the end of 2023. Sorry, I didn't
Yeah,
not
no,
mean to cut you off.
Not at all. No. So the reality is now that they're on this time period where the next couple days they're meeting again to making a decision on whether or not they're going to cut the rates, and all of the conditions right now are leading to that they're not going to do it.
So what are these conditions? Like, I
No.
feel like there's, because it makes no sense to me. I
Mhm.
mean, it makes sense to me now that I talked to you about it, but like,
Mhm.
it hurts my heart
Yeah,
and my
it
brain
does.
because I feel like they're empty promises.
It does, and that's what happens is we settle in on these hopes of
Mhm.
okay, interest rates are going to come down. We're going to have an opportunity to make some changes and buy that house or refinance or whatever that is. And there's a lot of folks that are waiting on this. However, one of the driving factors is inflation, and inflation, the purpose of kind of maybe reducing these rates would be to help with inflation. Well, inflation has been doing well. It is subsided some,
Mhm.
and that's where that question for them is, because if inflation continued to rise and grow, then they're saying, well, why would we cut the rates? Because that's not going to stop it. So if they cut the rate, then people come back into the market and it stimulates the market.
Right.
If the economy is doing well because inflation is going up, and that's one of the ways they measure it.
How is the economy doing well right now?
It's numbers that are out there.
That
And
you didn't
so
have to answer
here,
that. That was
I
more
know
of a
it's
hypothetical question.
I
But
totally get it. I totally get it. But I mean, the last time that this has not been touched since July of 2023.
this one
Okay.
has not been touched.
The
rate.
rate
Yes,
change.
I would.
Okay. So we're talking about July of 2023 was the last rate change.
Almost a year ago.
So they're, at that point, they wanted to combat the ongoing inflation. The rate was raised 11 times between March 2022 and July of 23. Okay. So inflation has started to recede, but the feds are kind of wanting to get a little bit more positive data before they pull the trigger to say, yep, we're going to definitely do this. So after the last meeting, the Fed predicted 3/4 point cuts by the end of the year. And now as time goes on, that really becomes less of a certainty.
Yeah.
And now the projections and now the economists and all the talking heads are saying that they might not see something change until March of 25.
That's insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
So
for
I mean,
I was just thinking, I'm going to be selfish for a second. Like, I actually talked to Joe about this. Like, imagine if we were, holding off on building our house until the mortgage rates fell.
correct. Right.
We would have still been sitting in the same place we were at, at the end of last year. And it's crazy to think about that. And I I was doing a little bit of research, and it seemed like they were talking about like the workplace economy looked better in the beginning, like the first quarter of the year, than they were expecting, like whether it be with like the economy with just a little bit of pay hikes for people. So that helped stimulate the economy as well, because people weren't living as paycheck to paycheck as initially thought might have been affecting them.
That just it. I mean, the job market was strong after COVID. And unfortunately,
that's an easy way to say what I just
said. Yeah, exactly.
Job market is strong.
I summarized Amy's blah 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 into the job market.
But I was reading.
No, that was good. I mean, and you did say it correctly. But the job market absolutely stimulated after COVID. But if you look at the direct correlation, when the job market is stimulated, there's all these folks that are working and they're looking to move, they're looking to buy, they're looking to sell, and they're stagnant. They can't do anything. Now, with the exception of the fact that there are people that have to move, or there's the exception of the people that, job relocations or life events cause things. But the general population who are, I want to refinance my house or I want to sell my house. Why? Why would you get out of your house at 3%? Right? I mean, you just built a house, and your whole journey down that path was about, boy, I really hope the Feds do something, so I'm not going to lock in at an interest rate that is whatever it is, right?
I'm headbanging myself on a
Yes,
microphone right now.
because at the current house, your rate was substantially lower than what your new one is, right? Half.
Less than half.
I mean, half.
Less than half.
You just built a several $100,000 house with a higher interest rate and left a lower payment by substantially smaller house too. But I mean,
but it's still reality.
You're one of the few people that can actually afford to making that move and making that jump. God bless.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of folks that would not be even in the cards.
No, and
I mean,
I've talked about my brother and sister-in-law before. They
Yep.
said we're here to stay,
right?
Like, because they bought during that crazy 2 to 3 interest rate. And I said, well, I hope you really like your town that you're in. And they're in number 4 town in the in the state of Illinois. So they're happy there, but it's still just, they're there now. There's no question.
There it is. Like the consideration of saying, okay, well, what I didn't think is my forever home became my forever home because of the fact that I'm basically tied to the interest rate. Mm-hmm. The interest rate has, shackled me to this house, and now I'm stuck, which it's unfortunate, but I do think that, from the encouraging side of it, there is becoming a some energy building up around the wanting to buy and sell and wanting to make some changes and do some things, so that when this does come back, like everything else, it's real estate, it typically turns itself upside down, and it does exactly the opposite of what it's doing now. So it goes from a seller's market, ultimately, selling your house at a premium, to a buyer's market, an influx of houses out there to buy, and a lot of opportunities and choices. So it'll, it too will change.
So what do you say? You marry the house and you date the rate?
Amen. Amen. Marry the house, date the rate.
I feel like the last handful of episodes we've kind of been saying, if you find your dream home, do it now.
Yeah.
Because right now, if you are looking, you have the upper hand. Because there's not as much competition as there's going to be when the interest rates fall. You
can't pick a time because nobody's good enough to know when things are going to happen and what's going to happen, to say, I'm going to buy the house in 10 months because that's when the rates are going to be down. Really?
You don't know.
Okay, Genie, let us all know that. Play the lottery.
Or
right?
like from Bill and Ted.
Yes.
Yeah. Like Bill and Ted.
I love Bill and Ted.
Back to the Future, all those time traveling movies. Like, sign me up and we'll get there.
It's not reality. It's not reality. So, this really plays a good, flip into kind of where we're going to take this next portion of our show. And I really, this is good for us. And I think that this will be a nice little interest for the people as well to really get into this next segment that we're about to go to right now.
All right, everybody, we are moving on into our next segment, which has become one of my favorite, if I do say so myself.
Absolutely.
Our inspired people part of our podcast.
That's a mouthful.
I know.
Our inspired
and when I'm trying to smile because I'm excited who we're going to talk about, it's even harder for me to enunciate my words. So I actually met this human through a networking group.
Nice.
And very luckily, we have gotten to communicate a little bit. She helped me out on the purchase of my home.
Awesome.
She is the originating branch manager of Cross Country Mortgage. Awesome. So we are being joined right now by Michelle Boksa.
Michelle Boksa, hello.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us and taking time out of your busy day.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me.
Michelle, tell everybody about you and who you are. Introduce yourself and give the audience a little bit of starting point about you.
Sure. So I have been in the mortgage industry since 2003. So 20 years seasoned. I actually got into the industry because my mom had a brokerage. So I started off as a receptionist there while I was in college. And after I completed my MBA, I was, helping top producers close 300 loan applications a year. And I'm like, why am I not doing this for myself? So in the last
just a little
300 deals.
That's insane.
That's my boom. And so I've now been originating for 10 years. My mom and my brother both work with me. we've probably closed about 1,000 applications in the last 10 years, specializing with first-time home buyers. And so we've kind of, seen a lot of the market changes. And so outside of mortgages, I'm a mom as well. So I got a 6-year-old boy.
Nice.
He's very busy. And that was my life in a nutshell.
That's awesome.
I wish I had as cool of a synopsis of my life as you do.
That's a pretty strong
Isn't it
intro.
fantastic? I know.
Just an MBA, just 300 loans, mom. Yeah, I think that's pretty full and all encompassing. So you started right out with kind of doing this for a lot of years. What are you seeing in the marketplace? What's happening with these interest rates? And obviously that's the big question everybody wants to know, right?
Yes, everyone's asking about rates. When are rates coming down? And it's been a hot topic for the last year and a half. And we keep saying that rates are going to come down. We just don't know when, right? So the market has been, for us, thankfully, it's been steady. We've been steady closing and helping buyers, but a lot of these buyers are going to be refinancing later when rates do come down. And the current forecast and the forecasts are always changing, right? Because the economy changes. So many things impact the market. We do expect the last update from Fannie Mae is that we'll see rates coming down by Q2 of next year. It's just a slow process. And the Fed, they tend to overdo it sometimes. So they just want to be very careful before they start really dropping rates. But they've already committed to a few rate drops this year, right? So we should see some improvement. I don't think it's going to be major, to be honest. But I think that the other piece of this is that in general, most people have kind of gotten used to the current rate environment and they've stopped waiting. Right?
And I was going to ask that. Do you have people that have been kind of put on pause for the last 6 months and then just were like, pardon my French, but screw it, I have to do it now or I'm going to be waiting for whoever knows how long?
Exactly. Yes. So we've had a mix of both. There's always going to be buyers that just have to move, whether their families are growing, maybe they're going through a divorce, they're downsizing, relocation, you name it. There's always going to be a need to have to move. But for those that were saying, let's wait and see, after a year goes by and prices continue to go up, what are we really waiting for at this point? So we have seen the beginning of the year is probably always the busiest, where people start with new year, new goals, new home, right? Yeah. So we've started the first quarter with a lot of inquiries of everyone just saying, okay, we're going to start this process now and see where it takes us. So with that said, we have a ton of buyers and not a lot of inventory. So prices continue to rise and we have a lot of bidding wars. And that's just kind of the environment that we're in.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to see, because I'm doing a couple different podcasts and shows and things. And that is the big question that is being asked is the interest rates. And yes, the Feds have said that they're going to cut the rates probably 2 more times this year. But like you said, the impact, we may not feel it until sometime next year. But to your point, it doesn't mean don't go out and, buy that dream house, because realistically, you're not talking about a huge swing in savings between dollars and cents, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you put it into numerical terms, I think that's they hear high interest rate, they immediately equate that to, oh my gosh, my mortgage payment is going to be ridiculously high. It a couple dollars, $1,000 is really what you're talking about a swing here, correct?
Exactly. So if we think about maybe a $200,000 purchase, it's probably a difference of less than $200 a month. And I mean, then if you're buying it at an extra $10,000 in price, it's taken away from that $200. So I don't really see, for me, a few $100 isn't going to make a difference to buy something if I need to make the move, right? So yeah, it's an interesting time, but it is difficult for those that are existing homeowners, because they have to be able to, if they sell their home, they have to be able to move somewhere. And so we're finding this gridlock for a lot of homeowners where they're afraid to list their home. I just talked to someone yesterday. They already have an offer on their home. They have young children, and they just started their home search process. So they don't have anything under contract, and they're afraid to accept the offer.
Totally.
They're Because where are they going to go? What if they can't find, all these what ifs, right? So
Dude, it's terrifying.
It is. It can be very terrifying. And there's just so many moving pieces to it. It's a big investment, but it's also very emotional.
It is. It's building up that bubble,
right.
That bubble of pent up energy where, when, as Michelle says, when the rates do actually come down, you'll have that refi where folks who are buying now are going to go, okay, well, it makes sense now for me to lessen that. And then the folks who are kind of on the fence of whether or not I should sell my home, making that decision to say now is the time because they did come down, because it makes it more affordable, and it makes their ratios easier, and all the financials that go into getting a loan.
Well, and I just think it's so hard because people saw that 3.1 number, right?
Sure.
A couple of years ago. So people 30s, my age, mid 30s, keep moving upward. But maybe we'll wait. Guys, it's never, I don't foresee a 3 coming in my lifetime again at any time. So for us to be waiting for this 3 number to come back, I don't think it's a reality that we're going to see. So if you find your dream house, I would suggest, kind of making the plunge and trying to do it, right?
Absolutely. It's really all about the numbers. One, you have to be ready, and the numbers have to make sense for you. That's it.
Totally. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking with Michelle from Cross Country Mortgage. Michelle, what is the process of getting a loan? As far as at what point do people really engage with their lender? Is it after they find the house? Is it way before? What does that look like?
My recommendation is always to initiate a conversation with a lender a year before you plan to purchase.
A year?
As far as a year, because we don't know. Buyer doesn't know what they don't know. So we need to determine, if the numbers are going to make sense for the desired area. Maybe someone thinks that they want to be in a specific neighborhood for a specific school district, but the prices of the homes, the property taxes do not align with their monthly budget. So then what's the next step in that picture? If they're waiting until their lease is almost expiring to learn this, what are they going to do? It's a big scramble then to try to get into that school district. So it's always good to plan as far in advance as you can, because the market does change year over year. I would say 1 year is probably the longest time frame to begin that process, because at least a year from now we can kind of gauge where rates are going to be. We have an idea of where prices are. So there's going to be some fluctuation, but it's not going to be that major. So anyone thinking of buying in the next year should be having a conversation now. Understand what your position is, what your buying power looks like, what's realistic in the neighborhoods that you desire to be in.
Interesting. That's it.
Buying power. For people that are listening that haven't heard that term before, how could you simplify buyer power or buying power?
So the buying power is going to be the monthly mortgage payment that you can afford and that the lender will qualify you for. And there's 2 different numbers here. And I always start this conversation with the first-time buyer about budget. Many people can actually qualify for much more than what they actually want to spend. Right. And so as an originator, as a mortgage professional, I want to be sure that if I'm qualifying someone for a loan, they're going to actually be able to afford that according to their lifestyle. Because I don't want to put someone in a home that they'll have a remorse with because, now they can't live their lifestyle and go on vacation every quarter. So there are 2 numbers here. So one, you want to see what your buying power looks like, but make sure that it's in line with your actual budget. And interestingly, for our first-time buyers, they don't know what their budget is. Because maybe they've been renting with roommates, or they've been with family, and they've been renting for years, and they're like, I don't know, what should it be? And it's a personal number. And so the recommendation is always to let's get a spreadsheet. Let's get Excel. I like Excel. There's other apps nowadays, but let's look at where you're spending your money, and let's see what's really going to make sense for your housing payment.
No, that's an excellent point. I mean, are you is first-time home buyer, is that something that you offer programs for? Is that something that you excel in and you can assist folks with?
Absolutely. So we have about a dozen first-time buyer programs, and these are programs that offer grants. Some of them are forgivable. Some of them are non-repayable. Of course, my favorite, because if you don't have to repay it, even better. That's free.
Yeah.
So yes, we do have a dozen options for first-time buyers.
That's, and I think that's important to speak to as well, because, you know, there's so many different places to go. And I think a lot of folks don't understand that there is a difference whether they go to the bank that they bank at, or they go to a lender, or they go to a, the guy down the street. It's just, everybody has different opportunities and different programs and different lending abilities. Is that correct?
That's absolutely right.
Yeah. So I mean, shopping that is like, it's not just, one and done, right? I mean, you may be able to, offer something that somebody else didn't know about by them reaching out to you and calling you.
Correct. Absolutely.
And yeah, Michelle is someone who will look at the person as an individual, not just like as a number to try to say, well, you make this much, you owe this much, and here we are. Like, she will look and talk with you and counsel you through this process of home buying and hold your hand through the entire thing. So if you're looking for somebody who will educate you on the process and make sure you are doing something that is good for yourselves and your future, Michelle is definitely somebody to reach out to.
Yeah, it's definitely having that creativity and being able to think outside the box and really put people into a comfortable place where they're going to be able to
Succeed.
Succeed and fulfill what their obligation is. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Your job is a difficult one, especially when it's a roller coaster marketplace and things. And you said you're currently busy with the buyer's market right now, right?
Yeah.
So the buyers that are approaching you, what are some of the common things you're seeing from them as far as issues or questions or obstacles that you've been able to really help them through?
The top questions that we receive are in regards to down payment. How much money do I need to purchase? And I don't know what my payment should be. What should my monthly payment be? That's a tough one, because I'm like, I can't tell you.
Tell me what I should pay.
I don't know how often you go to get coffee. So it's kind of hard because you just don't know their lifestyle. So those are the top two questions: is affordability, down payment. Credit is always another top question. A lot of first-time buyers, especially, concerned about student loans and how that might impact their buying ability. So that is where we start, is the basics. So with that, we kind of coach them on how to figure out what's going to be an affordable payment, and we go through the different options that are available for the loan options and then the additional grants that may be available to help them with down payment. So that's primarily where we'll start. And as you mentioned, Aimee, it's about educating them on the whole process, because there are internet companies that will generate a qualification letter without kind of going through this whole conversation like we're having now. That's not really tailored specifically to their budget, and is not a very thorough understanding of their buying power, which can change things later in the process as well. So
yeah, that's great advice. And
it really is.
It's really great having somebody on here who speaks it and understands it and really is there for the people to kind of guide them. It's not about making that deal. It's about helping that person.
Isn't her demeanor fantastic?
Yeah.
You are just so even keeled that I think you would be such a soothing person for any people that are struggling to take these next steps.
Agreed.
In order to even have this conversation, because I know this conversation for people that, like you said, have been leasing since out of college and are like, all right, well, it's time for a family. What do we do now? Like, this is somebody who will have your back no matter what. And like I said, she is very soothing. When I was on the ledge about an interest rate on my mortgage, she was somebody who for sure talked me off the ledge and calmed me down with it. So
well, stop. Like, how do people get a hold of you? Give us your pitch of how can they get a hold of you, where can they find you. Obviously we'll certainly post this all over our social channels as well for you and do all those things, but just how can people get in touch with Michelle?
They can find me on either Instagram, LinkedIn, or Facebook, entering my name, Michelle Aponte Boksa, or Mortgages with Michelle. And texting is always best to set an appointment. So, make sure to share my number, 773-858-4102.
Love it. Love it. Well, we can't let you go without a couple more questions. Okay. Do you want to go first?
I sure will.
All right, you give it.
So navigating what 2024 looks like, what are your goals moving through the year and towards the end of the year?
Great question. So for me, the goal is to maintain the same level of production as last year, but I'm focused in on doing a lot more community events this year. So from a marketing standpoint, my efforts are going to change there. And personally, my goal is to go to Disney. So,
Yeah.
Yes.
Everybody needs to go to Disney without winning something first, right?
Yes, so
Girl.
That's where we're at.
Good for you.
And keep us in mind for this community involvement piece, because it's one of the things that we are super heavily into. So we would love the team to come support what you're doing out there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And we'll definitely include you in our events that we do, and have you come out, because we do the Feed My Starving Children, and we do some of the different walks and things. So we'd love to have you kind of be part of that with us as well. So my fabulous question is, how does Michelle define success? What does success mean to you?
I love this question because it is so different for everyone, right?
Amen. I hope so.
To me, success is having the time to do the things that I want to do. That is success to me. So that's time with family, giving back, appreciating life. So that's success to me, having that time.
And you're doing it. It sounds like you're doing it. And we are so thankful for you taking some time today to share with us all of this greatness and educate our audience and bring some awareness to them. I really appreciate you for taking some time out of your day to do this.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you so much for everything that you informed us of today.
Thank you, Dru. Thanks, Aimee.
You got it. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, that is Michelle from Cross Country Mortgage. Wow.
You can see why.
Yeah, you could just sit here and you could just keep talking to her. She's almost therapeutic.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I said, when you're able to deal with me,
yeah.
Try to.
Yeah. Hyper crazy. Yes. Michelle, calm, even keeled. Yes.
It's like an ocean wave,
Yeah. Oh, it's so great.
All right, everybody, we're transitioning into the kind of ending part of our show. It is the inspired community portion of our show, which every portion I say is my favorite segment. So I can't keep saying that. But for real, this is a fun one to talk about. So it's May 2nd.
Yep.
May officially is designated as National Health Awareness Month. Now, this happened in, I don't know if you know the history.
No, I'm dying to know, though.
1959 is when May became National Health Awareness Month.
Nice.
By the United States Congress, due to the increased number of veterans suffering from mental illness returning from World War II.
Makes total sense.
So because the entire team here are huge advocates for mental health, including, Courtney, who works in it, and just everybody else who is so openly talks about it when they're having problems or wanting to help people going through something.
Yeah.
We decided to focus our second quarter give back for Pillars.
I hate the whole mantra behind why it started, but I'm glad it did start with the veterans, and really Pillars' mission really lined up with ours based on the fact that they're trying to improve the health of communities and empower individuals with compassion and whole person care. Their values are about access and community, which is something we speak to all the time, diversity, inclusivity, respect, and just basically service of excellence. And this is just something that's so near and dear to us too.
Yeah, and I feel like when talking to Courtney about Pillars, because Courtney has been involved with Pillars for a long time. She used to work there. And the more conversations I have with her about Pillars community health, the more facets they have extended to helping other kinds of people. So it's not just like one single organization. It's a single organization that is connected with different kinds of organizations all over the state to be able to help people going. I mean, anything between, she talked about Bed Plus, and she's talked about,
Yes.
Domestic violence and,
Yes.
trying to get kids the help they need. There's no one that Pillars isn't willing to help, which is why I think it spoke to us as like a huge umbrella for like, let's do it. Let's dive in and let's help as many people as we can that are, struggling with mental illness. Maybe.
Totally. And I mean, I think even just our initial experience with them back in 2020, when we did the Thanksgiving Day meals, Courtney spearheaded that lead into kind of the introduction and having them come out and saw that we were kind of aligned with them. We put together 5 Thanksgiving meals for families and dinner.
During COVID.
It was so great. It was something that you can go back and watch it on, I believe it's on our old Title Talk episodes. And it really kind of kicked off a lot. It really started the fire burning inside to really just jump at this hard. It
really did. So we chose Pillars as one of the organizations that our golf outing is going to go support. So for those of you that don't know or are maybe new to this show, we do a golf outing every July to honor my cousin-in-law's passing a handful of years ago, who was he had the biggest heart. He had the biggest smile. He was a plumber that when you called him and asked him to help fix a toilet, there was no,
I like fixing toilets.
There was no, let me get back to you. It was, I'll be over in 5 minutes. So
awesome.
Golfing was such a huge part of his life that we decided with my Aunt Anne's blessing to, carry on Tim's honor and celebrate his life through this golf outing. And the more it's grown over the years, the more we have been able to help more and more organizations.
Absolutely.
Giving back to the community. So we are so happy that Pillars is going to be one of these organizations that is going to, come along with us for this journey of what this golf outing is going to be.
That's awesome. And that golf outing is July 27th, 2024. So it is
3 months.
You guys, you can definitely find it on our social medias. It is also out on Scramble Hunter as well. I believe that you guys can sign up out there and be a part of that. So we invite all of our listeners,
yes,
all of our clients, everybody that is affiliated, or even if you're not affiliated with Inspired Title. We want you guys to be part of, our mission, our movement of trying to make a difference. And
I really want dogs at the golf course. So if there's any organizations or charities out there listening that are huge into animals, the entire team here, minus maybe half of one, we are all dog lovers. You guys have met Blue on this show before. So we are trying to look for a charity to partner closely with for our 4th quarter give back. So if you're a listener out there who is strongly tied to a shelter of some kind, please reach out to us because we're looking to partner with you.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. This has been a very, very busy show. There's been a lot of things talked about. This, I felt like it just moved and kind of, blew by, right? So here we are. We talked about some ABCs of title. Our big letter F.
Our big letter F for foreclosure and forbearance. So that's how we started out your show. We talked a little bit about what is happening with interest rates and feds and mortgages, Dru's version. And then we also went into Michelle and what she's seeing for the market in the upcoming couple of months, hopefully not into years. So please, you guys, this show, we do it for you. It's not for us.
Right.
We want to give you as much knowledge, as much information, as much help with what's going on in real estate as we can.
Absolutely. And thanks, Michelle, for being on here. Thank you guys for tuning in and listening to us. We are going to be back in 2 weeks with another great show, our letter G. Who
Gorillas.
knows what that's going to come up with? Who knows what's going to happen in the real estate market between now and then? But we'll be sure to tell you. We'll be talking more and more about our golf outing and some of the different opportunities that we'll be doing. So like this, share this, please, make this thing awareness for everybody out there. Until next time, everybody, my name is Dru.
And my name is Aimee.
This is the Closing Table. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Take care. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye-bye.